God forbid you just stop the car until the track is definitely clear. I mean,
when have you seen a hurricane in Texas? Well, it happened that day.
What's all-star about having every driver? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Good guy, ass. Good guy, can't drive a race car. Sorry.
You're listening to the Foreign Fuel Podcast.
hello everyone, welcome back to the Foreign Field Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Caplupo, joined by Steve Ray, Sam Dooley, and Wesley Riddle. We're here for an Advent Health 400 preview at Kansas. Steve, Kansas, one of the most anticipated stops on the schedule since the release of the next-gen car back in 2022. 2 races here. No one seems to argue, at least from the TV side of just the product on the racetrack, that this is one of those tracks where no one's asking for them to lose a race.
Yeah, the only thing that they're kind of struggling with, we saw it in the spring race last year, is their attendance issue at the track. It's one of those tracks that you wonder if it would almost do better with one race. If you take the second date away, if it would pack the one race. I hope in some ways that's not the case, though, because we see of how well the next gen car races at these mile-and-a-half tracks. That's just so much fun. Multi-lane track. Now that the repave is almost nearing its 15-year mark, we're starting to see the surface wear out some. It just puts on a hell of a show. It brought the closest finish in NASCAR history. We had the Toyota chaos in the fall race last year. We had Denny Hamlin get wrecked by Kyle Larson a couple years ago. So that was, it just put on a slew of great races in the next-gen car. Kurt Busch's last win. I could go on and on seemingly. So, yeah, Kansas will be hopefully a great race and not another dud that we've dealt with the last couple weeks. So exciting for the next-gen cars to be back on the mile-and-a-half tracks.
Yeah, it's a track where you're looking for more multi-groove racing. I know the outside usually prevails, but if your car is good enough, you can make passes on the bottom, and that's what it's going to take to win this race, is having a versatile car that could run that middle, that could work really any lane and be successful. That's how you're going to win this race, and that's what you see from cars like the 5 car, the 11 car over the past few years, is those guys can maneuver through the field even when they do fall back, and they're the ones that can make the passes at Kansas, and that's why they've led so many laps. And that's really what we got to be looking for, is the 5 and the 11 as we go through this episode. I'm sure we'll talk about them for sure. Sam, when you look at Kansas, I mean, what outside of a casino there, I mean, is there really much to do? Is that, you think, a reason for the attendance problems, especially in the spring?
I think that's got to be part of the problem because it's Kansas. What really do you do? I'm not exactly the expert in that whole area of the United States, but from what I've heard from Steve, our native Midwestern guy, it's really flat. There's a lot of nothing. So I'm not exactly like that attuned to what the area is like, but I can imagine that it's like a lot of places in the Midwest, especially a lot of places around NASCAR tracks, because you've got, your Daytonas and places like that are in like central hubs. Charlotte is one of them, but then there's like your Talladegas where it's like you got to go like 30 minutes to actually like do something. So I'm not exactly sure, but I can only assume that being in Kansas, it's probably somewhere that's a good 30 to 45 minutes away from like anywhere to actually do things.
Yeah, I'll attest to that. Kansas Speedway is outside of Kansas City, and that's really the going factor for him, because when NHRA raced at Topeka, there really was not much around Topeka. So it helps that they're outside of Kansas City, which is about the only thing seemingly going for Kansas these days. So you do have things to do within a 40 minute, range of Kansas Speedway. I've never been personally, but just being from the Midwest, that's kind of the area that the track is around. So thankfully with Kansas City, there's great food around there. There is some more local attractions to do. Obviously, with baseball season coming in, I won't I won't go on too much of a rant outside of NASCAR, but you can catch a Royals game or you can go tour Arrowhead Stadium, things like that. And then, yeah, like I said, the food's great in Kansas City, well known for their barbecue. So, but once you get outside of Kansas City, there's really not much left. You're not kidding about that. It is pretty flat through there.
Yeah, and Wes, I feel like your Kansas isn't one of those tracks for the super casual fan. Because if you're a casual fan, you're looking to go to that destination race where you're going to a Charlotte, which is like an up and coming area. You're going to a Daytona where you got the beaches there. You're going to Atlanta for the city in Atlanta, Nashville for Nashville's sake, and even Bristol if you wanted to go into the Smoky Mountains and stuff like that. I feel like Kansas, you're kind of lacking that like touristy area where you be like, oh, let's go catch the NASCAR race while we're in the area on vacation as well.
Yeah, it's just not really a destination I guess I've ever wanted to go to for a NASCAR track because like you said, there's just so many other reasons to like get an appeal. And I feel like part of that's because I'm on the East Coast, but I'm more attracted to, the cities that you said that have more of a surrounding base. But granted, I don't know anything about Kansas City aside from the barbecue. I know it's pretty good. I've never had it, but it seems like there is stuff to do there, but it's just nothing iconic. And I know they've done a great job around the track to bring a lot of life to it. I've heard there's a huge shopping mall. They've added, hundreds of stores and restaurants, which is great. I think that area has definitely grown up, but yeah, just not really a lot of draw. And I don't feel like it wasn't that long ago too. A lot of people wanted to have a championship race in Kansas just because the racing product was so good. But obviously, it's just not really the market that I think could be able to host a championship race, even though it probably could sell out. I just don't think that's, the ideal location that NASCAR would want for that kind of race, even if the venue is good, um, and the surrounding area is good.
Listen, Kansas does not need to host a championship race. It might put on great racing, but I'll tell you, when it comes to, a couple weeks before Halloween, you got to start watching your forecast for snow. And certainly with it being, first or second weekend in November, it would not shock me if it was in 30-degree temperatures and already starting to snow in Kansas. So it's a great idea in theory, but logistically, it just does not make a lot of sense for a championship race in November to be held in the Midwest.
Yeah, and you just look at the Midwest, they kind of need the two dates because I've gone on this rant. I'm not going to do it again right now with the Southeast and having so many races, but you Kansas's race product is what's keeping it out of the conversation of losing a date. And that's why I can't afford to have a dip in the racing product. We can't go back to having mediocre Kansas races, or that talk is going to ramp up again. That's where people are going to be like, well, no one goes to the spring Kansas race, so why are we doing it? And it's not even that great of a race. It's what's so good about it is the racing, so no one's calling for it to lose a date, unlike a Pocono or a Dover or a New Hampshire where the racing kind of faded for a little bit. So then they decided, all right, we're going to take a date away from those tracks, which it has helped attendance, especially at Pocono, to where they're selling out every year. But you don't want to see the same thing happen into Kansas. And then, the Midwest fan base kind of gets screwed over, kind of like the Northeast has. And so just some notes going into Kansas here. This is only going to be the 41st Cup race at Kansas. The first race took place on September 30th of 2001. Our guy Jeff Gordon won the inaugural Kansas race. I think he won the first two, if I'm not mistaken. And he won in 2002 as well. And then you look at your active drivers who have won there in the Cup Series. You have 9 different guys. Denny Hamlin has 4 wins, which leads all drivers all time at Kansas. Kyle Larson and Joey Logano, both 3 wins there. Then you have Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, all with a couple wins apiece. And then Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, and Ross Chastain, all getting wins in 2022. 2023, and 2024 to each have a win apiece at Kansas. Last year, we saw Hendrick Motorsports sweep the Kansas races with Kyle Larson in the spring and Chase Elliott in the fall. Now, Wes, when we talk Kyle Larson, he's so good at this racetrack, but his last win came in this race 1 year ago. Do you think there's some extra urgency for Kyle Larson to get back into victory lane this weekend, considering it's been a whole year now between his last win?
There definitely is, and I feel like he wants it. He's just not really too talkative about it. I feel like that's something that you're not going to see him really express anything differently in his personality. He's motivated. He definitely wants to be able to get back to victory lane, just like anybody. But his expressions, obviously, he's always the same personality. I feel like every week. So even when he's struggling or things aren't going well or he's not getting to victory lane, he's still Kyle Larson. So I think he can definitely show up. There is going to be a little urgency. I feel like he knows that this is a track that he dominated in the spring last year and did pretty well in the fall race. And he's gonna have a good shot. I think that it's just a matter of can Hendrick kind of put all their eggs together, right? It's been a struggle for them in ways this year, aside from Chase Elliott's strategical win. I mean, without that, they probably wouldn't, have a victory at all this year. It's it's just looking like their season's off to a rough start, but I don't think that's going to be a tale for Hendrick Motorsports throughout the whole year. So if there's going to be a race for them to start trying to put things together, it should be this week. And if not this week, it's going to happen soon.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Hendrick as a whole, the 2014, they need to get back on track this week. Can't follow that Bristol performance up with another performance like that. Chase Elliott's really solid here. You want him to run the top 10 majority of the weekend just to kind of solidify himself. And Alex Bowman, this is one of his better tracks. He tends to run in the top 10. So if that 48 team can try to get some momentum, this is the track to definitely do so. A little more of a natural track where you control your own destiny. So we'll see what Hendrick is. And if they struggle this week, then you really we've been pushing this ball down the road of hitting the panic button. But if Hendrick Motorsports if they're not running top 10 at Kansas, then you got to start getting a little worried because this is the majority of the chase is mile-and-a-half tracks. You've got to be good at the mile-and-a-half tracks if you're going to be winning a championship this year with the removal of the Charlotte Roval, adding another mile-and-a-half back into the chase with the Charlotte Oval. So you look at the stats. I mean, Chase Elliott in the last four races, average finish of seventh. Larson, 8.5. Bowman, 11.5. Byron, 14.5. All top 10 active in the Cup Series. So they need to run top 10 all weekend and get that ball rolling where kind of quiet the noise of this new nose and new body being an issue for them. Because that's been the talk of the town every week. Hendrick struggles. Oh, it's the new body. It's the new body. Well, it can only be a problem for so long. Joe Gibbs Racing and the Toyotas figured that out pretty quickly when they made their change in 2024, and they were winning races right away. So the excuses are going to run out here soon if they don't figure it out.
Yeah, and you bring up Alex Bowman, with this only being his second race back since the vertigo issues, what do you think would be realistic expectations for the 48 car? Is it top 10? I don't know if that's very realistic. Maybe in his second race back, is it top 20? Maybe it's just finishing the race, finishing all the laps, and just getting acclimated to it. You bring up a good point of this is one of Alex Bowman's better tracks, but you don't know if any vertigo symptoms are lingering. Um, obviously he's got a good routine down on a race to race basis, but I think for the 48 team, especially, we know what the 5 and the 9 can do, and obviously William Byron and the 24 team need to kind of reset themselves after Bristol. But I think, yeah, for the 48 team, in my opinion, I think just solidly going out and just finishing all the laps doesn't really matter where you finish. But if they can put together, 267 laps, I think that would be a win in my eyes for the 48 team specifically.
It'd be good, and it would be a win, but the problem still comes with Bowman. Like you're in the 48 car, you're the not the fourth tier guy. You shouldn't be, right? I mean, you should be competing for wins, and it's tough because you want that expectation for Bowman to be able to finish, just finish a race, get to the finish line, but he's in a contract year, like he has to pick the pedal up, and if we don't see results regardless of the symptoms, it's unfortunately probably going to be the end of the road for him. So I feel like just like Byron, his goal is to win, Larson, his goal is to win, Elliott's goal is to win. I feel like, it's Bowman has to honestly, he has to finish like top five. Like he has to run good. If there's a track that he's going to show up at, it has to be this one because there's not many coming up on the schedule where it's really going to play into his factor.
Yeah, just like Wes said, can't you can't coddle him just because he's coming off an injury. I understand, like that's some serious stuff, and I'm not trying to say it's not, but like Wes said, you can't be sitting here coddling him to where it's like, oh, if he finishes 28th but on the lead lap, like it's fine. He's got to run top like 15 at worst. He needs to be running top 10 like he should be at Kansas. And he's gonna have the practice, and they gotta unload a car that's good enough. I mean, is Blake Harris the problem? Who knows? I mean, the Hendrick fans say Chase Elliott's got a problem with Gustafson, but that's clearly not the issue. So yeah, he's got to go out there, run top 10, top 5, and really compete for a win here soon because, like Wes said, it's contract season. It's gonna go downhill before it goes uphill, and I mean, the only thing he's gonna be hanging on is Ally sponsorship if he wants to keep that 48 car.
I think the end of the road's coming up no matter what, even if he does go out and does run top 10. I think that 2026 is the end of the road for Alex Bowman in the 48 car, realistically. You know, Hendrick can say what they want, but at some point you just got to cut your losses and kind of look towards the future. But like you said, the only thing that would keep him in that car is his relationship with Ally, because that's what's paying the bills for the 48 team. So yeah, you're right. There are high expectations when you run for Hendrick, but and at some point, like we got to be realistic that since 2021, that 48 car has been the worst out of all four Hendrick cars consistently. So, um, at some point, when does the road end? When does the rope run out for Alex Bowman?
And I think that this free agency class that we're about to come up on too is huge. Like there's a lot of talented guys that are coming up on contract years. There are a lot of talented Chevy development drivers that are just waiting for their shot. And when you see, like Steve said, the car's been underperforming for a while, or car driver, whatever, that team has been underperforming for a while. Yeah, I think it's just it makes too much sense. I don't want to wish the guy out of a job, but at the same time, you got to perform. That's the sport's about, showing up, and so just all of the circumstances around this just point to, yeah, this is probably the end of the line more than likely for Bowman in the 48, unless he just unless the vertigo unlocks something in him and he just goes out here and goes on an absolute tear.
I will say the
Oh,
one thing going in his advantage and for the team right now is that, let's be honest, they're not making the chase. So you got nothing to lose. Take all the risk that you want, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to mess up the strategy and finish bad. Okay, well, you're not fighting for a chase spot realistically anyways. There's just too steep of a hill to climb to make your way to 16th in points. And that's even if he went on a heater, that's as far as he would get, would be to that 16th range. So um, that's about the only positive that I can take from this situation, is that they can throw anything that they want and see if it sticks as far as strategy goes.
and I guess one disadvantage too is you've got Corey Day looming. I hate to lay it on Alex Bowman, but I wanted to bring up that I noticed just a lot of people were saying how, Corey Day, He hasn't won a race yet. His first year, right? I get that, but there's there's so much potential to Corey, and people have to remember too. Like Bowman didn't win a race in Nationwide, and obviously he didn't have opportunity in Cup, but he didn't win until the Charlotte race just the year before, and it's just not again not to lay it on him, but for Jeff Gordon and Kyle Larson to have all their eggs in Corey Day's basket, and just with how consistent he's ran this year, I think the stat was like he's the third most consistent lap time driver of all the full-time O'Reilly drivers, which is pretty impressive. That was auto racing analytics, but it just shows like how consistent and how much he's already improved just in the span of hardly having any oval experience whatsoever, or any asphalt experience, which is just remarkable. So it's it's unfortunate, but uh you know opportunities come and go, which is part of it.
Yep, Jimmy Johnson didn't light the world on fire in the Busch series back then, and Jeff Gordon saw something in him, and Jeff Gordon's usually pretty good at finding these talents, and if he's got his eye on Corey Day, then I think that's what they're going to set their eyes on. And Rick Hendrick definitely believes in Jeff Gordon's vision, obviously, as he did with Jimmy Johnson. It's going to be Corey Day's ride. If it's not next year, it's going to be in 2028. So, I mean, Bowman might get the benefit of the doubt and come back next year on a 1-year deal just to have someone in that car. But that's about the extent of Bowman's, I think, career at Hendrick in the Cup Series for sure. So, with that, we'll get into some segments here, and we'll start off, Wes, with your way back moment.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it back to 2014, and I feel like, of course, my bias comes out a little bit, but sticking with only spring races, just because there haven't been that many spring races. We could look through the fall, but we'll save the fall for later in the year. But the 2014 race, it was the fourth spring race at Kansas. They started the spring races in 2011, and it was also the first night race, which I think they continued it on maybe until the COVID year. I don't remember when that ended, but obviously now we don't race under the lights anymore. So it was pretty cool seeing those night races at Kansas, and especially in the spring, just because we didn't get that many. Um, I noticed the Xfinity slash O'Reilly slash Nationwide. I don't know what it was that year, but they didn't race that weekend. It was the trucks. They raced the day before, and it's just weird looking back at who was racing, finishing top five. Like Taylor Mawson finished fifth. Joe Nemechek finished ninth. Mason Mingus 10th. Like what a time, and that was only 12 years ago. It's just crazy. But looking back at the Cup race, which happened there the next day, again Saturday, May 10th, Kevin Harvick started on the pole, and it was pretty much a day dominated by him and Joey Logano. There was started first and second, and just were up front all day. It was also funny enough the first start of Ryan Blaney's career. He's yet to win at Kansas, but it was his I guess one of two starts that he made that year for Penske. He wouldn't race for Penske again until 2018, where he'd start full time, and obviously he's still there today. Funny enough, Dave Blaney actually qualified for that race and didn't make the show, and it would have been the first and only time they would have raced together in Cup, because Dave didn't race again much longer after the 2014 season. I think sometime in the summer he stepped away, where just the rides didn't materialize. So they could have raced together in Cup. They did one time in trucks, but it unfortunately, with Dave not qualifying, he missed out on a father-son opportunity there. But yeah, it was a pretty average race. There were a lot of single car spins. Clint Boyer spun out. Denny Hamlin spun out. Marcus Ambrose spun out, all just getting loose in the corner. Kurt Busch had a moment like that, and then also blew a tire where he had two crashes, or it didn't crash, but just spun out. But there were three crashes throughout the race. One happened on lap 60 that had David Reagan, who lost it off turn 4. It was a crash that had Taco Bell and Burger King in the same wreck, because he took Ryan Truex with him. So that was pretty funny. You don't see that a whole lot, where the fast food chains, they're not around as much anymore, but the fast food chains getting taken out in the same wreck. And then we had three drivers probably in that one race have the worst crashes of their entire career. The first was Jamie McMurray. where he lost it on turn 3 because his brakes failed, and he absolutely destroyed. I mean, it was like he sped up like Eric McClure at Talladega. Like he sped up when he hit the wall, and it was so vicious. And surprised he might have had a concussion after that. He seems a little concussed in his interview, and obviously he would finish the season out, but just I mean, you go back and watch it and it's brutal. But I think a lot of people remember the wreck that happened after that and a little later in the race on lap 187, which had Justin Allgaier and David Gilliland, where I guess David Gilliland, just he had no clue Allgaier was going to get clipped in the corner panel and slid up the racetrack. And sure enough, just T-boned him right at the start finish line, and it was crazy. I mean, it was like years ago that would have been one of those fatal wrecks, and I feel like we point to a lot of those, but that would have been right up there. Same with even McMurray's. But it's crazy going back and seeing some of those moments and just realizing how the safety's kind of evolved, even at this point in time, 2014, just a few 13 years after Dale Earnhardt passed away. Um, it was Danica Patrick. She qualified ninth, and it was like the best run probably she ever had in her Cup career. She, yeah, I don't think it ever fell out of the top 10. I mean, she was up there all day, made pit stops, was able to come out, still run top 10, and she finished seventh. And it was the first top 10 she had since the Daytona 500 in 2013, and it was only one of 7 that she had at Kansas, or not at Kansas, but in her Cup Series career. So it's pretty cool. Uh, Notice too that JJ Yaley, just a little random fact, but it was his second start with Extreme Motorsport, and it was his first in the number 44 car in the Cup Series because he raced so many different numbers throughout his whole career. But oddly, that team became NY Racing, New York Racing team, and that's the car and team that he drives with now part time. So it's just kind of crazy how that comes full circle. And obviously, Yaley hasn't had a lot of opportunity recently, and he's still a competent driver. Like he gets the job done, keeps it clean. But yeah, he was that early NY Racing team stage before when they were called Extreme Motorsports was just so weird. I didn't even know that team even existed. But yeah, ultimate winner of the race, Jeff Gordon. It was the 89th of his career, the first of 4 wins that he had in 2014, and only would have that one win at Martinsville the next year. So pretty cool to see Jeff Gordon. He had pit, was able to come out ahead of Kevin Harvick there near the end of the race and held him off and was able to get win number 89. So pretty cool for a Gordon fan and definitely a memorable win of his later year of his career.
You're muted there,
Yeah,
Dom.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah, there
God.
you are.
So that race was cool because as a Gordon fan, that the beginning of the season was so good. Gordon was leading the points. He was just very consistent, just couldn't break through and get in the victory lane. But that finally got in the victory lane there because you look at the beginning of his season, he starts at Daytona fourth, Phoenix fifth, ninth at Vegas, seventh at Bristol, 13th at Auto Club, which he should have won. Martinsville 12th. I think something happened at
Had a
the end of that
speeding
one.
penalty late in the race. He was
Was
going to
that?
win that race.
Yeah. And then he got second at Texas. I mean, he took 2 tires at the end. Logano passed him on 4. Darlington finished 7th. Richmond, he probably should have won, got second. And then Talladega got caught up in the Super Brad stuff and finished 39th. And then finally got that win at Kansas, which was really cool. And you see how easy Gordon takes it that last lap to make sure he gets the win because Harvick was flying at the end. It looked like Harvick, if Harvick had one more lap, he was going to pass it. But I think Jeff was taking it so easy just to make sure he didn't spin out or overdrive the corner or anything. So that was cool. And that season was a lot of fun until the end of the year, for sure.
That season was fun up until the Chase Texas race, and then it wasn't fun anymore.
Oh man, well, speaking of fun, I've been having a lot of fun doing trivia, Steve. So,
Yeah, can you let somebody else have fun for one of these weeks here?
well,
Or are you going to try to make it 7 out of 9 here?
hey, I'm looking like Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Well, our updated trivia standings, Dom with 6 wins, Wes with 2, Sam still with the donut, still trying to get his first trivia win of the year. So We are going that now. What's going for Sam here? All right, what's going for you is that we didn't start racing at Kansas until after 2000. So there's no pre 2000 trivia. Everything is 2001 and newer. So that's a good thing going for you here. I'm looking at 10 drivers here with the top 10 list of their average finish at Kansas. Now, this includes the spring race and the fall race, so it's just Kansas races all together. We got the top 10 drivers. All of them have a minimum of 5 starts, and we will go in an order of Sam, Wes, and Dom. We'll go from worst to first here. So, Sam, do you have a driver to cross off the top 10 list here?
I'm gonna go with Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson is 8th in average finish, 22 starts, a 12.1 average finish. Let me just mark this off here. Yes, Kyle Larson, first one off the board. He is 8th in average finish at Kansas. Over to Wes.
I'll say Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin's is 10th. 35 starts, but a 12.6 average finish for Denny. And he is going to be off the board here for Wes. Going to throw it over to Dom.
I'm going with Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott, 3rd on the list. 20 starts, a 9.9 average finish, one of his better tracks, and the defending winner at Kansas, Chase Elliott, is off the board. So 1 apiece, throwing it back over to Sam.
Christopher Bell.
Christopher Bell is 7th in his 12 starts at Kansas. He holds an 11.6 average finish. And Christopher Bell is off the board, throwing it back to Wes.
I really don't know. I just haven't seen that many Kansas races over the years. And especially recently, like I just haven't watched that much. Um, I'll just say Jimmy Johnson.
I am shocked
He
that
probably the later end of his career probably killed him.
Yeah, he is not actually on the list. Kansas was kind of a struggle for Jimmy at points. I mean, he's got 3 wins there, but kind of a struggle for him at points. Jimmy Johnson not on the list. We're sitting at 2 for Sam, 1 for Wes. Gonna throw it back over to Dom, see if he can get his second one here.
Let's see, Jeff Gordon.
Jeff Gordon is 5th on the list. He is also has 20 starts, same with Chase Elliott, and Jeff Gordon sitting right there. Chase had a 9.9 average. Jeff had a 10 flat average finish at Kansas, including 3 wins himself. So 2 for Sam, 1 for Wes, 2 for Dom, throwing it back to Sam, trying to get his third driver.
Really don't know. Joey Logano.
Joey Logano, your guy, is going to disappoint you because he's not on the list.
How far
Joey
off
Logano.
was he?
I don't know. I
He's
only
got a
have
couple wins, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does have 3 wins, 2014, 15, and 2020 when 15 he's known for committing murder on Matt Kenseth.
Yeah, that's the one that was sticking out. I guess he is a highs are high guy and a lows are low guy. So
Yes.
average finish. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Throw it back over to West, trying to get his second driver. Try to even things up.
Oh man. I don't know.
Still
I'm
got
trying to think of
spots
reason.
1, 2, 4, 6, and 9 here.
One, like I have absolutely no clue. I haven't even I couldn't even tell you before last year who's won just because I don't hardly watch anymore. But I don't know, Ryan Newman.
Ryan Newman does have a win at Kansas, but is not in the top 10 of average finish. Throw it back over to Dom.
I mean, he was good there. What about Harvick?
Kevin Harvick is 4th on the list. 36 starts at Kansas with a 9.9 average finish and 3 wins, 2013, 16, and 18. And is also, if I'm not mistaken, the all-time laps leader at Kansas with like almost 1,000 laps led. So Kevin Harvick, very good in his career at Kansas and should have had a couple more wins if the aero thing wasn't an issue in the late, like 2019, 2020 era. So, all right, well, we're going to throw it back over to Sam with 2, Wes with 1, Dom taking the lead with 3.
I I there's just so many names that I can think. I can't think of one specific person like dominating in Kansas. He got his last win there, Kurt Busch.
Kurt Busch, not on the list.
Didn't think so.
Sorry. And throw it over to Wes. Do you have another guess?
I'm just blanking. I really don't know.
One of the drivers had a video game move on Jimmy Johnson that almost worked.
Oh, gosh. I'm blanking. Was Kyle Busch? Somebody guess him.
Kyle Busch, although he has 2 wins, 2016 and 2021, Kansas has been kind of a struggle for Kyle Busch. He did not make the top 10 average finish list. All right, Dom, we're looking for 1, 2, 6, and 9. The top two drivers only have 5 starts apiece at Kansas.
Well, I'll take your hint. I mean, I go cousin Carl.
All right, yeah, cousin Carl tried the video game move on Jimmy Johnson in 2008 and damn near worked until it didn't. Ended up finishing second to Jimmy Johnson. All right, 4 for Dom, 2 for Sam, 1 for Wes. Going to throw it back over to Sam, looking for drivers 1, 2, and 9. Who do you got?
Okay, I was unlucky because I actually knew the hint too. I was excited, but Dom took it before me. I figured he'd get that. Are these like guy guys or are these?
These are guy guys. These are
these are guy guys.
These are legends.
Oh man, he said they've only gotten 5 starts.
Yep, 5 starts apiece
And
would be.
I want to say they're not going to be 5 recent starts because I feel like the field is so close now that it's kind of hard to dominate a track like this. I could be wrong. I'm just talking through my thought process here. So, could it be someone that got 5 starts when Kansas first opened? I don't even know who would have been good there early. Goodness.
All right, for time's sake, I'll drop this nugget on you. Joe Nemechek, the year that he swept Kansas, went toe-to-toe with this driver driving for the Wood Brothers. Joe Nemechek outdueled this driver in one of the classic Kansas finishes. He was driving the 21 Wood Brothers car at that time.
Who? Sadler drove the 21, but was that the same time? Who was the? Why am I blanking on who was the 21? I'm just gonna go Elliott Sadler. I don't think that was him. I think I have
It
that
was
wrong
not.
wrong time period. But
Just right after Sadler left by 2 years to the Wood Brothers. All right, Dom, do you know the answer to that question?
Maybe you're not giving Wes a shot. I think Wes
Oh, sorry,
probably knows
Wes.
that.
No, I mean you can skip me. No, I do know this one. That's back when times were good. So that was Ricky Rudd.
That was Ricky Rudd. Finished second to Joe Nemechek. I'm still shocked that Joe Nemechek swept the Busch race and Cup race in the same weekend at Kansas. That's still one of the greatest trivia answers. All right, well, that one's off the board, Dom. We're looking for the number 1 driver who's got 5 starts and an 8.2 average finish at Kansas, and then the number 9 driver who has 33 starts and a 12.3 average finish, including 2 wins there.
I'll go Truex.
Truex is the number 9 driver, 33 starts, 12.3 average finish, and swept the races there in 2017 when he went on his championship tear. And Sam, do you know the number one driver, 5 starts with an 8.2 average finish?
Should I know? Like, is this a name that I should know? You said they're
I
guys.
they're guys. I would be a little disappointed, I guess.
So if it's 5 starts for this guy, I'm thinking it's not an active person.
It's not
So
an active
so
person.
they got either they had
He
5 really weird spot starts or they only raced for 5 years or have 5 starts at Kansas.
Yeah, he did race the first 5 years at Kansas. You probably I'll drop a hint, but it's
Oh,
pre two,
I think I know who it is.
but it's pre 2000. He's the 1989 Cup Series
Yep.
champion.
Yep.
Don't the
Like
1989 Cup Series
yeah, like I said,
champion.
you would like I said, you probably wouldn't get that, but
That
it's just
what
a
the
nugget to
that wasn't
drop
a
on
hit
other.
for me. You know me.
I
You
know
know
that
me, Steve.
I
That was
know that
not a
there are
hit for me.
people screaming at their
You're
speakers right now.
literally you're just calling me out right now. I don't want to embarrass myself and even say a name. Go what Wes?
All
Wes
right.
is next. Go
All right.
Wes.
Wes, do you know?
I didn't hear what year you said, but I
Night
you said,
he ran the
huh?
first.
What a chump! What a chump!
Dom gets his 7th win in trivia this year.
Oh, I cut out. What happened?
You lost in trivia again.
Oh, that
That's
makes
what
sense.
happens.
Who was it? Who was it? I need to know.
Who was the driver?
Yes.
Rusty Wallace.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Oh,
All
well,
right. Well, Dom with 7, Wes with 2, Sam with the donut.
a lot of fun again in trivia. And let's do Underdog of the Week. I'm going to start. Guy I haven't mentioned all season really on this podcast outside of a road course at Coda. I'm going with SVG as the one to watch this week. He had 2 races there last year as a rookie, finished 10th and 20th in both races, so 2 top 20s last year. And he seems to be getting better and better on these ovals, not called Bristol. So I'd watch out for SVG to run inside the top 20, maybe even the top 15, and hover around the top 10 all day on Sunday at Kansas.
My underdog of the week is going to be the Hurricane man himself, Carson Hocevar. He seems to be one of the few Chevy drivers that the the new nose doesn't hasn't really seemed to have affected him that much. I was going to lean towards Bubba Wallace, but I feel like with him at Kansas, that's not really an underdog pick like it would have been in years past. So I'm going to go with Carson Hocevar. I like the speed out of the Spire cars lately, so I'm going to go with him.
And that leads it over to me. I'm gonna go. This is gonna be a real underdog here. I'm gonna go with Noah Gragson. Now, they front row's been bad, and he's been kind of bad since he's been there. Kind of been underperforming, but he runs relatively well at Kansas compared to the equipment that he's been in running at Kansas. So I think that that's at least a nice. That's a deep underdog. Um, but if I was going for like a pick a someone who could actually pull out the win, I'd go Chris Buescher. I know that's not a huge underdog, but he doesn't have a win there, um, and so I think he could also grab one. But Noah Gregson is my pick for underdog of the week.
And mine is going to be, I know I've picked him before, but it's Zane Smith. Zane was probably going to finish top 10 there in the fall last year before John Hunter Nemechek just rammed him over for whatever reason. But he's actually finished in the top 10 in 3 of the last 4 stages. And then in his Truck Series tenure, I think 5 straight top 5 finishes, including a win when he was racing with Front Row back then in the Truck Series. And obviously this year, I think he's had top 15 pace pretty much every single week. Just circumstances and getting involved in wrecks, just unlucky stuff taking him out of contention. But yeah, he's been fast this year. The stats show it, and obviously his results last year, just competing up front in the top 10, I feel like is going to carry over this year.
All right. So just to recap there, underdogs this week, I'm going with SVG. Steve's going with Carson Hocevar. Sam's going with Noah Gregson. And Wes is going with Zane Smith. And that takes us into our fantasy draft and a look at our updated standings after Uh, Bristol. Sam retakes the points lead by a whopping 1 point over Wes. And then I am sitting in third, 78 points back, took a little chunk out of there. And Steve took a chunk out as well. He only sits 91 points out, getting away from the triple digit deficit. And this week we start with the man second in points, down by one, Wes. Who is the number one pick for Kansas?
Let me make sure. I didn't look to see who I picked last week. Oh dang, I can't take him. I was gonna take Bell. I'll take Hamlin.
That's not what I wanted to see because I could not take Kyle Larson. Took him at Bristol, so I guess I'll go with Christopher Bell this week at Kansas.
Yeah, my 1-1 would have been Bell, but yeah, Wes got in a tricky situation there, and it didn't really gain him that many points either, because of circumstances. But I'm gonna go with Kyle Larson.
All right, let's go flip it over to me. I am going to take Tyler Reddick. And then on the round two first pick, I am going to take Chase Briscoe.
And that leads it to me, and I already mentioned him as my somewhat underdog, not fully an underdog, but I think he can win this weekend. Chris Buescher is going to be my next pick.
I cannot get you Chris Buescher.
I already picked him last week. Damn it! There goes my streak of
It's a
one
weekly
time.
thing.
I got 1 week. I got a 1 week streak of actually paying attention. So not Chris Buescher. I'm gonna go. Well then, Bubba Wallace.
All right, I will go with. Let's see. Last time I took him for easy points, he ran 25th all day, but let's go Chase Elliott.
That'll take it to me. I'll take Ty Gibbs. And that's gonna take it to me for last pick. I feel like somebody's eyeing him. I don't know who, but it's not somebody you would think of. I'm gonna take Corey Heim.
Corey Heim.
That's a good pick. I like that.
Well, I will finish this one out with, as long as his pit crew could just manage to only lose 2 spots at a time, we'll go Ryan Blaney. Change on the Jackman. They changed to the Jackman, so maybe the Jackman is the reason why they're so bad.
Yeah, they made some moves. They did something, guys. Let's congratulate them.
Yeah, let's not overhaul the whole pit crew. Let's just change one part of it.
Hey,
It's the
parts in,
Jackman's
parts out.
fault that they have loose wheels every time. It's his fault.
Awesome. Damn it. Ryan Blaney was who I was going to go with. Who can I go with here? Oh, goodness. You know what? I'm going to go with Todd Gilliland.
Now close it out with me. I will go with, I'll go with my underdog of the week. I'll go with Carson Hocevar.
It's kind of great. We've gone 2 weeks in a row without picking William Byron. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
I know you're just saving him for the first overall pick at Talladega.
Hey. Just to recap, Sam, who is your points leader, he is rolling with Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, and Todd Gilliland. Wes, 1 point back, is going to be rocking with Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs, and Corey Heim. Myself sitting 78 points back. I'm going with Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, and Ryan Blaney. And Steve, 91 points back, is going with Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, and Carson Hocevar. Final thoughts going into Kansas. Hopefully, multi-groove racing. Hopefully, get some long runs. See some comers and goers. Like to see some fall off. Like to see some strategy as well. Will we get a late race caution where it divides the strategy? That's what happened in the fall race. Denny Hamlin was well on his way to the win. We got a caution late. Had guys stay out, take 2 tires. People took 4 tires, and chaos ensued. Will we see a car ride the wall like Zane Smith? I wouldn't count on it, but it's for sure possible when John Henry Nemechek is in there disregarding any cars and lives around him.
Yeah, what I'm looking forward to with the race at Kansas this weekend, obviously no trucks this weekend like they normally were, but the O'Reilly Series will be there at Kansas. They usually put on a great show, so I'm going to be looking forward to another Junior Motorsports versus the field type of a race. And at this point, with the O'Reilly Series, just call it the NASCAR Chevrolet Series at this point because there are just too many of them in there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of a JRM versus the field type of a race.
Are you really going to discount Brandon Jones at Kansas?
Listen, we've said it with Anthony before. If the O'Reilly Series only raced at Kansas, Brandon Jones would be up, on the Mount Rushmore with Earnhardt and Petty and Johnson and Gordon. Brandon Jones at Kansas.
It never fails. And watch out for Brent Cruz too. I mean, we talked about him with all those points. I mean, he's already in the top 20 in points, and he gets to race the rest of the season. And he almost won Bristol. So, I mean, Wes talked about Brent Cruz at this beginning of the season, and I mean, Brent Cruz, I think you have to watch out for him. He's going to be a real threat for sure.
I'm excited for some IndyCar. IndyCar's back this weekend. So outside of NASCAR, some other motorsports, while F1's in this really large gap because of a silly little war going on the other side of the world. We do get some open wheel racing with IndyCar at Long Beach this weekend, so I'm gonna be tuned into that along with all of the NASCAR coverage this weekend.
Now I just have to ask, just because I haven't been following as closely, is Indy Next going to be in Long Beach too?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are. They follow everywhere that IndyCar goes, so we're locked in for Jordan. Still,
Yes.
we're looking for Jordan's first win.
Jordan
I was-
Missig, friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the pod. I was excited. I was hoping that he would pull out at Barber. He did pretty well. Got to talk to him. It was nice. But yeah, excited for just a whole fun weekend of motorsports.
Absolutely. So, Kansas, we'll be back to talk everything that happens at Kansas. Hopefully, we get a nice, exciting race to talk about afterwards, and we're not complaining. But, we'll have disappointments. We'll have some dummies. So I'm sure that we'll get to talk about throughout the weekend. So, for Wes, Sam, Steve, I'm Dom, and we'll talk to you after the Advent Health 400 at Kansas.